The reason I'm up here is to introduce the next two speakers and I like to think of it as prepping the landing zone for what you're going to hear later on in this meeting. There is a program called In Memory, and it is dedicated to people who were either wounded or who died as a result of their time in Vietnam, but not when they were in Vietnam. The same group that sponsors the wall is who started sponsoring this honor for people that either got hit bad but lived through it and died as a result of their wounds, and there's a lot more of these, people who contracted various cancers or other illnesses as a result of their exposure to dioxins like Agent Orange. So what we want to do today is Clyde Romero is going to give you a little presentation on what Agent Orange is and was and how all that happened. And then Jim Crawford, who, by the way, he and I drove helicopters together a long time ago, is going to give you a talk about the In Memory program. And Jim speaks of this firsthand. He had a Special Forces brother who was in the Special Forces who died as a result of his time in Vietnam. So without further ado, Clyde, you're on, pal.
Okay, now I'm back in my own element. First slide. Agent Orange. Almost everybody here that served in Vietnam, whether you were Army, definitely Army, Marine, Air Force, and Coast Guard, who served on the ground or anywhere close to the ground in Vietnam, was affected by Agent Orange. And you'll get a chance to see how deep Agent Orange got into the country. Next slide.
Blue water sailors got it too.
All right, let's keep it down. Agent Orange is a chemical herbicide and defoliant. One of tactical uses was rainbow herbicide. It was used by the U.S. military as part of a herbicide warfare Operation Ranch Hand during the Vietnam War from 1962 to 1971. The U.S. was strongly influenced by the British to use Agent Orange during the Malayan emergency. It's a mixture of equal parts of two herbicides. 9 chemical companies produced it: Dow Chemical, Monsanto, Diamond Shamrock, Hercules, Thompson Hayward, United States Rubber Company, also known as Uniroyal, Thompson Chemical, Hoffman and Taft Chemicals, and Agrisec. It was a pretty big chemical program. Next slide, please. Agent Orange was produced in the United States beginning in the late 1940s. It's been around for a while. And it used in industrial, agricultural, also sprayed along railroads and power lines to control undergrowth and forests. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military procured over 20 million gallons of this stuff, consisting of 50-50 mixture of dioxin and 9 other chemicals that were produced with it. Dioxin is the biggest part of Agent Orange. Next slide. Overall, more than 20% of South Vietnam's forests were sprayed at least once over the 9 years. 3.2% of South Vietnam's cultivated land was sprayed at least once between 1965 and 1971. I have some slides that you'll get a chance to see the coverage of it all. 90% herbicide was used was directed as a defoliant. Agent Orange also has caused enormous environmental damage in Vietnam. Over 3.1 million acres of forest were defoliants eroded tree cover, seeding forest stock, making reforestation difficult in numerous areas. So what they wanted to do with those of us who fought over there, close to the ground anyway, was to basically to deny the VC and the NBA places to hide, because at that time during the war, we didn't have night capability, so we were going to try to take away the night capability from the enemy by basically killing the forest they were hanging around in. Next slide. This is how it was sprayed. It was sprayed by UH-1. Where's my helicopter pilot? Let me see your hand. Okay, so some of us flew that type of stuff. I didn't, but some of them did. And I know there's one 123 operator here. Where's my 123 guy? I know he's here somewhere. There he is. Raise your hand. Yeah, so the 123s flew them, and they were called Operation Ranch Hand. They came out of Benoit, and they usually had fighter cover. And I got to Vietnam in 1970. They stopped spraying it in 1970, but it was still routinely available for weed control in all the bases, the fire bases and all the other major bases. So about 17.8% or 3.1 million hectareacres total forested area in Vietnam was sprayed during the Vietnam War, which disrupted the ecological equilibrium. So what you see in the pictures is a UH-1 with the spray booms spraying the forest, and then you also have the C-123. Next slide. Mostly what we saw in Vietnam was Operation Ranch Hand, which was 4 or 5 C-123s out of Benoit, and they were sprayed in a formation, and they usually had fighter cover, usually F-100s out of Benoit as well, to keep the enemy's heads down. Next slide. 28 of the former U.S. military bases in Vietnam where the herbicides were stored and located on the airplanes may still have high levels of dioxins in the soil. U.S. air bases in Da Nang, Phu Cat, and Benoit. Those were the big bases where the herbicide was stored. Next slide. So this is the aerial spray mission map. As you can see, those of us who served in 3 Corps, that's where they really sprayed it a lot. Not so much in 4 Corps, and then as we went up north towards 2 Corps, up against the Cambodia border, we had it. And then when you went up north, up by I Corps, they really sprayed it around the Ashaw Valley and the DMZ and stuff like that. And the problem is that they never told any of the field commanders about this. So I don't know, I never got sprayed on it myself personally, but I know there's people here that were served on the ground in their first tour that got literally rained on by this stuff. And they never told anybody about the stuff, but yet they would tell them all about an arc light strike, and an arc light strike was a B-52 raid. So it's kind of like, okay, this is dangerous, but nobody told them. Next slide. The affected population centers. You can see how it affected the population centers of the South Vietnamese people. And you got to remember, this was an agricultural economy where they grow rice and stuff like that. And so this stuff got into the water, it got into everything that they used, and it directly affected them. And it's still affecting them to this day, because as you get a chance to see, there's a funny slide in there, but it's really not too funny. You'll see why I called it that. But it was widespread. It affected how the people grew their crops and the whole 9 yards. So, and nobody knew about this chemical, how it would stay around. It's one of these forever chemicals. Next slide. So naturally, the veterans who were affected by this, nobody knew about it until here recently. So in 1991, remember when the war ended officially in '75, Congress enacted the Agent Orange Act, giving the Department of Veterans Affairs the authority to declare certain conditions and presumptive exposure to Agent Orange, dioxin, making these veterans who served in Vietnam eligible to receive treatment and compensation for these conditions. Next slide, please. Health effects of Agent Orange. Documented cases of leukemia, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and various kinds of cancers exposed to U.S. military veterans. So once again, it took till all these years after the veterans that were really exposed with it. Some guys served 2 and 3 tiers on the ground and were sprayed on this stuff. They were basically living in it, and now we know it's causing all these health effects. There are various types of cancers associated with Agent Orange, including chronic B-cell leukemia, Hodgkin's lymphoma, multiple myeloma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, prostate cancer, respiratory cancer, lung cancer, and soft tissue sarcomas. Some literature, it claims that neither Agent Orange nor its contaminants are carcinogenic to humans, but the data doesn't support that. Publications in the United States Public Health Service have shown Vietnam veterans overall have increased rates of cancer, nerve, digestive, skin, and respiratory disorders. Next slide. Agent Orange just recently came out. When I put this out, I didn't know anything about this, but just recently hit the VA. Agent Orange now is linked to rare blood cancers that develop over decades. The Vietnam veterans who are exposed to Agent Orange have a higher risk of developing rare blood cancers that develop slowly over decades, according to the new study that was first linked to, and can't say that word, I can't even say that word, syndrome, to widespread use of herbicide. Researchers say the breakthrough could help the veterans with syndromes, excess benefits, service, Department of Veterans Affairs. So the bottom line is the veterans that were exposed to this stuff are constantly having to fight the VA, but not anymore, because now all these studies, here it is a half a century after this war, and these studies are all saying, oh yeah, we found out this will affect you. Okay, next slide. This is the blood cancer slide, which I'm not going to read, but the bottom line is it reflects on the first slide I just showed you, that now they show that dioxins definitely affect the blood of the veterans that were exposed to it, and the blood cancer, and that's why you see this effect of what's happening to the veterans that have been around this stuff for a long time. Next slide. I call it the wet toilet paper slide because this thing never goes away. If you've ever been around wet toilet paper, you can't get rid of it. The U.S. Air Force operation to remove the herbicide Orange from Vietnam in 1972 was called Operation Pacer Ivy. While the operation to destroy Agent Orange was stored at Johnson Atoll, that's in the middle of the Pacific, in 1977 was named Operation Pacer HO. Operation Pacer Ivy collected Agent Orange in South Vietnam and removed it in 1972 aboard the ship MV Trans-Pacific. So once again, the Navy guys who thought they weren't going to get contact with it, they were in contact with it. For storage on Johnson Atoll, the EPA reports that 6 million barrels of this herbicide was stored at Johnson Island in the Pacific, and 1.8 were stored in Gulfport, Mississippi. Yes, next slide. So this is the slide of the Agent Orange barrels stored on the atoll. And naturally, it was in steel barrels, and you have corrosion, and what do you think happened? Yeah, you're right. The barrels corroded, and the stuff leaked into the soil and leaked into the water, and once again, it was a real mess. So next slide. So then I have a cleanup program. The cleanup program started in February 2012. So now we're talking 1975, 1977, 2012. We're going to clean this up. Monsanto agreed to settle a case covering dioxin contamination around the plant in the Nitro, West Virginia area, because that's where they made this stuff. They didn't tell anything about anybody in West Virginia they were making this stuff that manufactured Agent Orange. Monsanto agreed to pay up to $9 million for cleanup of affected homes that were in the area because they were dumping all the wastewater into the area around West Virginia, and $84 million for medical monitoring for people affected in the community and legal fees. On 9 August 2012, the United States and Vietnam began a cooperative cleanup program of the toxic chemical on the part of the Da Nang International Airport. Because if you've been back to Vietnam, like I went back, Da Nang is now a really big airport, and basically it sits right there on top of one of the biggest dump sites that we had. It would be like a Superfund site. The Navy Construction Battalion at Gulfport, remember they stored like 1.8 billion gallons of this stuff at Gulfport, was the largest storage site in the United States for Agent Orange. It was about 30 acres in size and still being cleaned up as of 2013. Here we are in 2025. In 2016, the EPA laid out a plan for cleaning up 8 million stretch of the Pacific River in New Jersey where they were dumping this stuff illegally with an estimated cost of $1.8 billion. So once Monsanto and these people figured out that this was wrong, they started parceling it out. And, you know, there's an old joke, you know, if you want to get rid of something, take it to New Jersey. Yeah, and that's what they did. And they dumped it in New Jersey. Next slide. I think I'm done. I think this is where, there'll be questions later on. I'm not a professor on this, but the Agent Orange is sort of like I said, the wet toilet paper. I'm an Agent Orange guy myself, and it's just going to be around for a long, long time. So come on up, Bill.
Yeah, I'm Jim Crawford. Happy New Year. I'm going to talk about the In Memory program. Next slide, please. In Memory program is part of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, the Founders of the Wall, and the reason called the Founders of the Wall because the Park Service runs it now. It honors men and women who served in Vietnam and later passed. It used to say died as a result of their service, but because of COVID, COVID went on every death certificate, so they just changed it to this. So now anybody that's passed after Vietnam is eligible. Most are anyway, okay? Next slide, please. It is estimated over 300,000 of our brothers have died since service because of their exposure. Veterans of other wars tend to live 7 years longer than Vietnam veterans. Next slide, please. I'm going to play.
The wall, of course, has the names of the 58,000 who lost their lives in Vietnam. But 2.7 million Americans served in Vietnam and the surrounding areas. They returned home, but many of them have had their lives cut short, mostly from exposure to Agent Orange and all of the diseases that accompany that. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund has the In Memory program. We honor those who served, returned home, and later have lost their lives related to their service in Vietnam. There is a permanent plaque at the memorial site that honors their service, but we have an online honor roll where we have photos and information about each of the Vietnam veterans added to our honor roll. It costs nothing for families to nominate their loved one to be added to the honor roll. And every year, the Saturday before Father's Day, we invite those families to come and attend a special ceremony on the hill overlooking the wall, and we create a tribute for each one of those veterans added to the honor roll, and we give the family a chance to come up to the microphone, hold up the tribute to their loved one, and read their name.
My husband, father, brother, and grandfather, Danny Baca, U.S. Marine Corps, Semper Fi.
Many of these family members suffered for decades alongside their Vietnam veteran as they fought illnesses and diseases related to their service in Vietnam. It's important for the families to have their loved one's service recognized in the place that our nation set aside for Vietnam veterans.
And I got a snapshot of the wall of faces. You could do a search, and when it comes up, you can upload a photo or remember it, whatever you want to do. It's a very nice system. Next slide, please. This is on a flyer that you have. If your table didn't have them, I got extra ones after if you need them. So the flyer and the card here. This information is on this card here. I won't read the whole thing. Basically, it's real easy. 2 pictures, DD 214, death certificate, and a write-up. It's very easy. Next slide, please. Again, this is a close-up of the plaque. Next, please. And its relationship to the wall here. Next, please. And I took this picture. Next, please. And again, next, please. Okay, that's how close we were to the ball. Next slide, please. Okay, from the 2024 ceremony, we've got representatives of myself, my brother Joe, Rick Lester and his mom are here, if y'all will come up. The family of Jim Watkins and Alvin Rowe, if y'all will come on up. My brother Joe, next slide, please. My wife Judy was with me. My brother Joe died in 1970 of an Agent Orange tumor. He's still on active duty, 5 years before the war was over. And if you saw the guys in the old fatigues that were protesting back then, that's why we formed this group to improve the image of Vietnam veterans. But they had legitimate gripe. Their guys were dying like, their buddies were dying like flies. They didn't know why. The VA wouldn't do a thing. So they're finally getting recognized, because when the wall came up, my family was asking, can we get Joe's name on the wall? And finally they came up with this, which was really a blessing. A lot of closure, 55 years later. It meant a lot to us. There are a lot of guys that are in this, that their family or friends are not there to present these. I ran into 3 veterans that come every year just to present these unrepresented families. I found out about it after I did mine. I did 3 more. Okay. So next slide, please. Who do I have next? I have the Lester family. Come on up. Please say a few words.
Sure.
About what it meant to you and the process.
Yeah, pretty incredible program. I'd like to start by saying, thanks for all that you guys have done. Thanks for paving the way. I get to fly Delta jets during the week, and I get to fly C-130s on the weekends, thanks to all the work that you guys did setting the stage for us. And thanks for your kind words earlier. But Jim pointed me in the direction of this program. It was pretty simple to set up. Like you mentioned on the flyers there, my father passed away in December of 2022, and then we went to DC in June of 2024. But anyway, Jim told me I got 5 minutes. I don't have the charisma or the stories that my dad had. But anyway, just, the program was great. It was a great honor, great closure, if you will. My dad died in December, so it's not bittersweet. He left us with some, incredible memories around the holidays. So we get to enjoy that. But yeah, thanks to Jim's help, we went up to DC, had a great couple of days up there, attended the ceremony, and I got to memorialize my dad. So that's it. Yeah, just want to say thanks for having me, and thanks for bringing us out. Yeah, so that's my mom, myself, and then my son made the venture with us. So even at my dad's memorial service, he suffered through Agent Orange complications for years and years and years. But my son is 13 years old, and I think that's the reason he stuck around so long. But anyway, sorry to get emotional. The ceremony was great, but my son got to see what my dad meant to so many people, especially at his service. And anyway, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
And thanks for the offer, Jim. Yep.
Next, we have Jim Watkins' daughter, Megan Watkins. You come up, please, and introduce the people in this lab.
Okay.
Here, please, if you don't mind.
All right. So good afternoon. My name's Megan Watkins. This is my son, Riley Sipe, on the left, and my daughter, Ella Sipe, in the white hat, and then my son, Bo Sipe, who's the tiny one. So I am an attorney, and so I enjoy being in front of people and talking, but this is not a subject that I can talk about very well without getting emotional. So I wrote it down. So if y'all just bear with me. So,
Let me hold it up.
yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. So I want to tell you a little bit about my dad, Jim Watkins, and how impactful this program was for my family's experience for when he passed away. So my dad was born in Ocala, Florida, attended FSU. He's a huge FSU fan, so go Noles. After college, he attended basic training at Fort Benning, OCS, and the Army Engineer Advanced Course at Belvoir, and Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth. Dad served a tour of duty in Vietnam as a military intelligence officer, and then he served in Desert Storm. He eventually retired as Lieutenant Colonel from the Army Reserve in 2024. He was so proud to be a Vietnam veteran. He must have had 20 different Vietnam veterans hats that he wore almost every single day, so I love looking out there and seeing y'all's hats. He joined numerous veterans groups, and he participated in every veterans parade that he could. He loved his OCS reunions, and he never missed a chance to get together with other Vietnam veteran friends whenever he could. He was so proud to have served his country. He instilled this love of it for America and these ideals of service in me since I was born. I also wanted to serve in the military, but I unfortunately got diabetes when I was 13, so I found a different path. But he continued to teach about service and talk about his experiences to my 3 kids. He used to have long talks with each of them about his time in the service and how much he enjoyed and benefited from being in the Army. So much so that I'm proud to say my daughter Ella, the one in the white hat, last year received an appointment to West Point and Navy, and she chose to go to Navy. She's enjoying her plebe year this summer in Annapolis. First day of class is back today, so she's all in loving every minute of that. My middle son Riley also wanted to join the military as well, but he also got diabetes, so he's so instead the ideals of service that my dad instilled in him are still shining through, though. My dad encouraged him to run for class president in 7th grade, which he did. And he won, and now he's been elected the 4 years since then, every year as class president, so he's finding his own way to serve as well. Then my youngest son, Bo, up there, who is like my dad in every single way, is counting the days till he can join the military as well. So as you can tell, other than his family, there's nothing my dad was prouder of than being a Vietnam veteran. Even the way he passed away was so fitting for his experience. On November 10th, 2023, I was in charge of the Veterans Day program at my son's school, which he never missed. He came every year. So he came that day to Atlanta to participate in that event. Then on November 11th, he was actually in the Atlanta Veterans Day Parade on Peachtree Street, and he passed away just as the parade was starting at exactly 11:11 a.m. He was surrounded by hundreds of his fellow veterans, and I'm sure he was having the time of his life that morning. Jim was one of the people that Dad was with when he died, and Jim and his wife Judy accompanied him to the hospital and waited for him until I could get there. I will be forever grateful for what y'all did. Excuse me, sorry. So when Jim contacted me about honoring Dad with in this way, with this program last summer, I was thrilled. We had the opportunity to honor him, and I was so grateful for that experience because I know it's an event my dad would have absolutely loved. And it gave my family a way to recognize him one last time for what he did for the country as well as for our family. The program is run incredibly well, and the people in charge of the program do everything they can to highlight each veteran. The weekend is filled with events and opportunities to recognize each veteran individually and collectively for their service. We were able to read his names, and as Jim mentioned, my children were able to get up there and read the names of other veterans who didn't have family members there to represent them. And I could never have imagined a more impactful way for my children to honor my dad. It made such a lasting impression on all of us, and I will be forever grateful that we had the chance to do this. So I would encourage each of you to give your support to the program and to be involved as however you can. It's a powerful event to be a part of, and it's an amazing way to continue to honor the veterans for everything y'all have sacrificed. Thank you, and again, I apologize for getting upset. Sorry.
She did a much better job promoting this than I am. So, okay. Her dad and I were OCS classmates, Fort Belvoir engineer classmates, and I kept up with him most of the time. He would come, he was a former member of this group and moved out of town. He started coming back for the parades, because he has other friends here besides me. Pete, you here? Yeah. So he would stay at our house, and so he comes so much that he said, well, I want to keep up with the group and get the emails. So he joined again right before the parade. Okay, next slide, please. Donna Rowe, please.
Number one, I want to thank you all very much for doing this. This is a very difficult day for all of us. As you can see, my small son, Richard, and I, my youngest, and I went to Washington this year. And I want to tell you, it was very different this year than what it normally is. Normally, they're down at the wall. But because of the 25th, the birthday of the Army, the 250th birthday of the Army, they had Washington completely shut down. So we couldn't be at the wall. So they took us out to the Masonic Temple, and we did the ceremony on the grounds. There were 774 of us, and we sat there and went through every single name. It was very difficult for the families that had just lost someone. Now, Al, I want to tell you about Al. Most of you in this room know Al. But Al was the president of the Georgia Vietnam Vets, Chapter 1, and he was very adamant about keeping the Vietnam vets together when we all got home. Al and I served together in Vietnam. We were both exposed to Agent Orange. Us nurses, for you that don't know, we used Agent Orange barrels for the dead clothing and bandages and things we used in triage area. So we were over them every single day, concentrated Agent Orange every single day. And a lot of the nurses have had breast cancer, which most of us have had. And so we know the effects of Agent Orange. Al was a graduate of Iowa and Iowa State, and he got his PhD from Georgia Tech. Al was the commandant of Fort Belvoir, the engineer school, before he retired. And Al suffered for 12 years with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, which was, in 2008, designated by the VA, along with MS and Parkinson's disease, as a direct derivative of Agent Orange. Al was gallant in death as he was in life. And I'm proud to be his wife, and my sons are proud to be his sons. Al was a unique individual. And for putting up with me for 47 years, I have no idea how he did it. But I want you to know that this program is extremely important. And I'm wearing the in-memory pin. I don't know, did you all get the in-memory pin? They gave us the in-memory pin this year. And the plaque that you see, my sons have that plaque because I wanted them to have it. And so I encourage each and one of you that if you know a Vietnam vet that has passed away because of his service or her service in Vietnam, remember there were 11,000 women that served in Vietnam. And 8 of us are on the wall, all Army nurses. So if you know of anyone that dies because of the effects of their service in Vietnam, please take this brochure. Jim has the cards, the little business cards that you can carry and give to them, because this is a very important program. And it's for the living as well as the dead. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you very much to all of you. Really appreciate your words here. Also on the website for the wall, besides this, any living Vietnam veteran can sign up and put your picture and bio in. Okay, it's another way to be memorialized. Okay, next slide, please. And That's about it. Anybody have any questions? Most of the tables have these. I was going to put one for each, but I was running out. So if you don't have one, you want one, come up to my table at the end and the cards. And what I'll do, I'll order more and bring them back to the next few meetings. So I'll have them here for everybody, okay? Are there any questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming and appreciate your attendance here.